Americans have always boasted of a love affair with the automobile, but they've always been reluctant to admit that the quickest exotic sports cars always seem to come from Europe. Now they may have something exotic of their own, a contender for title of the ultimate driving machine and the fastest production car in the world. It's American-made. It's the Vector car. This is the Vector W2 twin turbo. The 350 V8 sitting sideways behind your head is tweaked to more than 600 horsepower. Throughout are systems taken from jet fighters, from the harness that holds you in your seat to the heads-up display that allows you to see the instruments through the windshield. 0 to 60 in less than 4 seconds. A top speed estimated to be 240 miles an hour. That would make it the world's fastest production car. With the concert hall sound system, the price, $150,000.
Vector is a mathematical term that relates to force, velocity, and direction in space, and I think that definitively relates to the vehicle and relates to the company as a concept.
The Vector was born in Venice, California, the dream of an American who wanted a car that was better than anything made in Europe, Jerry Weigert. Jerry is still chief designer and chief executive of Vector Cars.
I've always had a love affair for fast cars, and especially aircraft, and the really significant thing about the Vector is that I integrated my aircraft interest and aerospace interest into an automobile, and that's what makes the Vector so special, and plus the fact that you know, we've developed the world's fastest production automobile.
We can't show you the Vector's top speed on the highway. You could get a speeding ticket just for parking this thing. The bonded aluminum skin makes it look like it's going fast when it's going backwards.
I think it's the idea of what the car will do, not so much that you're going to do it.
Cannonball Baker wouldn't even get into this thing, but we did manage to get one expert opinion from the fastest man alive, Craig Breedlove. Craig was 5 times the world land speed record holder. He's gone 600 miles an hour at Bonneville. He took the Vector for a spin. I think he liked it.
When you ratchet it into first gear and stand on it, it just literally drives you in the seat, and next thing you know, you're doing over 90 in first gear, and it's one quick shift with a ratchet into second gear, and this takes you up to about 160. The type of guy that would buy this car would buy it because it's an attention getter. I mean, it really looks trick.
The kind of guy or woman who would buy this kind of thing is one who likes crowds. If you don't like crowds, forget it. Wherever you park the Vector, somebody wants to know about it.
Things like Ferraris and Rolls-Royces are ignored when a car like this is on the street.
Vector car is quite an accomplishment for America and for Jerry Weigert. His team took his dream and made European heads turn our way. The world's fastest production car is a pretty lofty title, but an American car with that title is a wonder. In the words of Craig Breedlove, it looks really trick.
The ride of your life when we return on the Rob Report. Now let's climb into the automobile that's causing excitement on 3 continents. We'll ride with its designer, Jerry Weigert. This car flies along the ground at speeds of over 200 miles an hour. It's called the Vector, an American exotic.
It wasn't designed to be an automobile. It was designed to be aircraft or spacecraft for the street. The concept was to build a car here in America that could challenge and compete with the European cars in a world market and add a prestige statement for America in the automotive area in that particular class or category. The Vector is a word or a name that I identified back in 1970 when I began the original planning for the program. It's something significant and it represents a scientific term, either mathematical or navigation, but it really is something like a quantity that has force, velocity, and direction in space. And it's perfect for a vehicle. It takes it out of the category of horses and snakes and reptiles. This particular vehicle is geared for 242 miles per hour. The area we're in is an extremely treacherous and dangerous area to be driving a car at a relatively high rate of speed, and there's a totally safe feeling in the Vector. Scott Carpenter, the astronaut, drove the car one afternoon. He thought the thing got about 2 G's on acceleration. It works beautifully in an urban environment, doesn't overheat, doesn't feel stuffy inside because it has a huge, wide interior. In fact, the widest interior of any automobile made. The Vector is not a car that's on the drawing board. It is not a dream car. It's a car that is a reality. We've used the finest, high-quality, no-compromise components and materials and systems in the vehicle. It's something that works, that's exciting. Every time you walk up and get into it, it's just a feeling of dynamic expression. Actually, it's a space shuttle for the street.
That's the Rob Report for this week. We've seen diamonds in Paris, yachts in the Caribbean. We've ridden into the future. I've enjoyed being with you. Next week, join us for a tour of the world's most fantastic castle, gambling in the legendary casinos of Monte Carlo, crossing the equator aboard a 200-foot sailing yacht, and more. We'll be here. I'm Patrick O'Neill, and I'll see you.
Channel 5. News at 10. The #1 primetime news hour in Los Angeles. Now, Emmy Award-winning Hal Fishman, Debbie Davison, Larry McCormick, Joe Butina with sports, and the entire Channel 5 news team.
We're going to return with a late update in just a moment, and we have a car for you and your dog Spot. It's built like a jet fighter, as exotic as they come, and the price, well, we better hold off on that for just a moment.
And finally tonight, for any of you shopping around for a new car, we have a sleek suggestion if you can afford $150,000 for everyday transportation. The car is called the Vector W2, and it's the dream come true of a 38-year-old car designer named Jerry Weigert. The twin turbocharged V8 coupe can reach speeds of 242 miles an hour and gets 15 to 20 miles per gallon on the open road. Weigert got the idea to build the car back in 1973 when he was a consultant for Toyota's Vice President of Design in California.
The primary reason the Vector was designed was to be a challenge to European dominance of the exotic car, luxury car market segment, and this car represents a status symbol for America in the automotive area. It's a high-technology vehicle using more advanced and sophisticated components than cars in this category, and it's unique. It's a very special machine for a very special person that's looking for something more advanced and practical.
5 of these cars have already been ordered and production is underway. Now, who, you might ask, would purchase a $150,000 car? Well, 3 of the buyers are Saudi Arabian princes who paid for their car.
James Bond would love this car if he could afford it. The Vector W2 twin-turbo reportedly goes from 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds and can reach speeds of more than 240 miles per hour. Its designer Jerry Weigert planned it as an American-made alternative to European high-tech models like the Ferrari and Lamborghini. But with a price tag of $150,000, it appeals to a very specialized segment of the population.
Basically, wealthy individuals that have a high technology interest and who have perhaps owned corporate aircraft or have owned expensive cars and relate to the styling and the state-of-the-art, engineering and features approach that the vehicle has.
Each car is custom-made and has a host of interesting features, such as 26 stereo speakers, a specially coded system that replaces the old key in the ignition routine, and an illegal radar tracking and jamming device in case you're sailing along over 55 miles per hour and don't want to get ticketed. Speaking of speed, where would you drive a car like this?
Just because it has the capability to go over 200 miles an hour doesn't mean it can't be driven every day. It's designed to be a low-maintenance, high-reliability vehicle that you can drive day and night. It's not just an occasional use vehicle.
Owners of other high-speed vehicles often complain that they spend more time in the shop than on the road because the engines just can't adapt to normal driving. Weigert claims that he's gotten all those kinks out and expects his vehicle to do well despite the current state of the economy.
I don't really relate to the Vector being called an automobile. It's really aircraft for the street. And we find that this car being $150,000 is certainly not as significant as the purchase of a $5 or $10 million corporate aircraft, and it complements a corporate company's image and or a corporation president's lifestyle.